activity for Cordys, who's been doing a lot of research on this. It's like, what are you really looking to get out of the cloud? Is it a new business revenue stream? Is it taking existing technologies? You think you could do these front-end systems of engagement and get whole new revenue models or interaction models for the company? Maybe on a pay-as-you-go as a service type model. The interesting thing is the commercial structure. You know, you can do a creative payment structure and pricing structure without necessarily changing the whole back end. So we try to go in now and talk to people about, well, what is that model? Where do you see that gain? What's your competition doing? You know, that you want to leapfrog and get ahead of. And if you could do it in 6 to 9 months rather than 2 years, and you don't do the rip and replace, as we've said, your ecosystems of record in, we try to home in on those, and then the process that John referred to. Cordys really lends itself to a really rapid prototyping type environment. So when you can prototype it, and you can do that with the community around the table, and people see that value, that's where it can catch on with the right return.
All right, so I'm actually going to let Glenn make a comment to you, because I know he's probably itching to do so. Go ahead.
I'm really enjoying the conversation. I think one thing that Don brings up is how the cloud is sort of become so tight, so much.
Hey, Glenn, you got a mic on your way.
The cloud has become such a buzzword, right? That just everybody, half the companies out there are doing cloud washing and making their products seem like it's in the cloud, or it's become this word that's used too much. So what I like to think of is becoming a service provider, and what does that imply for you as an enterprise IT shop, right? And so what we see happening is that actually some of the customers have leapfrogged us. And there's a huge sort of variety of customers out there, or enterprise out there, with some have a very sort of primitive philosophy, but some very advanced companies, and who now see themselves in the role of leading their organization through process automation and a process focus. And what the cloud gives them is the ability to access a platform that's pre-engineered for them. So if you're running an IT organization, what's happening is it's like an iceberg, right? Underneath the surface, you've got a lot of people working on making sure I've got the right version of this patch going, I've got the right database level, I've got everything. You're doing a tremendous amount of system engineering work. That all that does is mitigate your risk. It all just keeps bad things from happening, but doesn't do much for you. So what we're seeing from some organizations is an intense focus on becoming a service provider, repurposing those business analysts, taking that focus. And we arrive, and they were already thinking this way, right? And so then we become an enabler for that vision, so they can, whereas they might have had before, maybe 20 or 30% of their IT staff focused on really systems engineering tasks, they've got that down to 10% now when they begin using cloud assets. So that's 20% more people they can have being business analysts going to the front lines. Because now the gap isn't the technology, right? At least with Cordys, the ability to automate a process, use web services, do all this is there. The gap is now getting the sort of organizations aligned and getting the infrastructure that they're leveraging behind. So that's one of the trends I see going pretty commonly.
Well, Michael, you want to grab that mic?
Yeah, John, you're a big evangelist for this cloud stuff internally, and I'm just wondering, in the old days when someone wanted a service, there was a cost involved. So what's the cost like of working with Cordys? Do you have to justify every time you put a new process in the cloud? So how does that compare to the old way of doing things? And I understand the opportunity cost side of things. Let's leave that aside and just talk about actual, money out the door.
How do you do the cost analysis?
Well, it's interesting. So the question being, what is the cost analysis that we've had to do over the life cycle of utilizing Cordys? We bought a perpetual license right out of the gate. We went big and we scaled right. I think we did a really good job at the front of being predictive of where we were headed. And we kind of went all in on the front. And the nice thing about that is the cost now is really all around occasional augmented staff to do development work, which is pretty small. We third-party source through Cordys or with another partner. We are pretty self-sufficient. For the most part, we occasionally, when we have a lot of processes come up simultaneously, we need extra people. And it's really just internal staff time. So it continues to pay. It's like it was a steep curve cost-wise at the front. You paid a lot at the front, but as time has gone along, the benefit is so big, and the incremental cost is so small for us right now that the business case on this, I'm thinking back, the business case proved out in the internal rate of return on that thing. It paid out in less than a year. And then since then, it's just been great.
And what's interesting, you say you paid out a year, which is a relatively short period of time, especially by historic standards. And you started this journey, we'll call it, this adventure, how many years ago now?
We started spring of 2009.
Okay, so in dog years, that's a pretty long time ago.